I've built this physique while getting an engineering degree in a foreign country. And when I just started out, I've seen a lot of advice on bulking, and it just seemed to be that none of these people seem to do any kind of intellectual work. Because when you have 6 meals a day, full of carbs, full of weird ultra-processed sugars, obviously your brain isn't gonna be nearly as productive on this diet. And if you're a student or if you're working hard and your work is intellectual and not just lifting weights, you're gonna have a really hard time following this kind of bulk. And good news are, this is not necessary, because over the past 3 years I've developed this new diet which was mainly focused on reducing brain fog, improving productivity and general mood, while being extremely sustainable, easy to keep up with, not very restrictive, and also good for muscle gain. Alright, let's dive right into it. And the first question I would like you to ask is, how much weight do you really need to gain muscle? A common misconception which is still persisting in the bodybuilder community is that you need to bulk a ton of fat. You need to basically become obese in order to gain more muscle. And that may be true, that you gain technically more muscle mass while you're taking on fat. But the problem with that is that while you gain more muscle, the amount of fat that you put on is going to take you much longer to cut, and also you may lose that muscle gain that you had because you had to cut more fat. So in reality, a weight gain of around 2 kg per month is going to be the ceiling for optimum muscle gain. If you gain more body weight than that per month, you're going to basically hit diminishing returns, and also you're going to have intense brain fog, which is not good if you're trying to stay productive. So I think 2 kg is the limit. I personally aim to 1 kg a month of weight gain on my bulk, and 0.5 I think is the minimum. So this is the optimum range. 1 kg is my target, and I think it's a good compromise in the middle. You may take a different one depending on your body composition. And at this rate, if you're training, sleeping and eating correctly, you may gain around half of that in form of muscle. So you're gonna get half a kg of fat and half a kg of muscle. Now, if you're more advanced, you're gonna gain less muscle and more fat. And if you're a beginner, you may gain more muscle than fat. But if you're very fat, like if you're just starting out in the gym, and if you're above like 30% body fat and you didn't exercise before that, if you start lifting weights, you may actually gain muscle while using fat. But if you're leaner than that, or you've been already lifting weights, you're not gonna gain much muscle without a caloric surplus. So this is why you need to bulk, but we're gonna bulk in a clean way. And for that, you need to track many things. And the most important one by far is tracking your weight. And many people do this in an incorrect way. Either they weigh themselves randomly in a day. The most correct way of measuring your weight by far is doing this right after waking up, before you drink or eat anything, and after taking a piss. That's probably the most correct way. But still, at the same time, if you look at your daily weight fluctuation, you're gonna see that it's going up and down. Like you can see my graph of weight, it goes like that. Your body weight naturally fluctuates, so what you should do is you should look at your weekly average. Every week you're gonna calculate the average of your weight, and that's gonna be your actual body weight for the week. Now, with a goal of 1 kg of weight gain per month, you're gonna aim at like 200 grams per week, and that is gonna be it. So you see, like, it's very little mass, and that's enough to trigger muscle protein synthesis, but you're gonna keep your brain power, you're gonna keep your productivity, you're not gonna be foggy. And in order to make it even better, we're gonna now look at the meal plan. And the meal plan is quite different from a lot of the bulking guys. Mine is just 3 meals a day: breakfast, lunch and dinner. And you may say that it's not enough, you may say that the distribution of protein is not going to be correctly, but yes, distribution of protein in the day does matter, but it matters like 10%, and 90% is just getting enough protein in a day. So as long as you eat enough protein a day, which is around 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight or above, generally the more the better. Like, you cannot eat too much protein unless it comes from ultra processed foods. So you should aim to have as high protein as possible, but without losing calories, because protein is very satiating. So if you're eating a natural diet, I actually had this problem of not gaining enough weight because I would eat a lot of protein, a lot of fiber, and that would actually prevent me from getting enough calories naturally. Now, when it comes to the actual meal plan, my general rule of thumb is front-loading protein and back-loading carbs, which means we're gonna have more protein early in the day and more carbs later in the day. The reason for that is because protein is gonna allow us to reach a level of satiety which is going to prevent hunger cravings, and also it's going to trigger muscle protein synthesis. While carbs may create brain fog. In fact, I've been having this problem throughout all of my college, especially at the beginning when I was still eating at the restaurant. And in the restaurant they would serve something like white rice, broccoli, and some vegan steak. And this was bullshit. That was a complete pile of bollocks because it prevented me from actually being productive in class. And so I ditched all of that stuff. You may be different. You may react better to carbs and less good to protein or fat, but I can pretty much digest protein without any problem, while carbs are gonna make me crash. So like 70% of my daily carbs are coming in the dinner, and before that, for lunch I'm gonna have a bunch of protein. I'm still gonna have a lot of protein in the evening when I eat my dinner, but lunch is basically steak, eggs, and fiber. And before that, in the morning, the breakfast is really small because this is the most productive period of the day between breakfast and lunch, and I don't want it to be overloaded. So I usually eat something like, so for breakfast I would usually have black coffee, Greek yogurt or kefir for gut microbiome, and maybe 10 grams of dark chocolate, like 90% dark chocolate, basically no sugar. And this is really important because if you eat too much fat or too much protein or too much anything in the morning, you're gonna still have a hard time working. And that is not a good idea if you wanna aim for minimum brain fog. So now when it comes to lunch, I would usually eat eggs and meat, a lot of protein, a lot of fiber, and I would finish it off with some fruit because fruit are gonna allow you to actually get some carbs without making you crash like shit because, well, when you eat too much grains, I tried this. I ate the wholest grains possible. I ate some Russian, I don't even know what it's called. It's not even buckwheat, it's some different thing. I'm gonna put it on screen. But it's basically a kind of a precursor, an ancestor of wheat, which is super high in fiber, but I ate it, did the same thing, still crashed. So I stopped doing that. I started eating fruit during lunch or sourdough bread. I think sourdough bread can work. And all the rest of the carbs are coming in the evening because that is when you stop working, when you can chill out. And actually this carb crash in the evening is actually gonna boost your sleep a little bit. It's been proven if you're eating your dinner more than 2 hours before you go to bed, adding a little bit of starch may actually help you sleep. At least it's my experience. So it may not be the same for everyone. As always, you should try an N of 1 experiment on yourself and you will see, like, if it doesn't work for you, you should change it. Same goes with keto, low carb, high carb, all of that stuff. It really depends on you. So yeah, this is basically 2.5 meals a day, but as long as you hit your protein and calorie goal, you should be able to bulk. I've been able to bulk, even though I wasn't that consistent in the gym because of the studies and other stuff. I still managed to gain some lean mass and that worked out for me. I also did all of that without any protein supplementation because I was like, yeah, we should go natural and micronutrients, so I ate a lot of meat, fish and eggs. But now I'm gonna try whey protein and I'm gonna keep you in touch with the results. So if you want to use whey protein, feel free because I think it's a really efficient, it's one of the best protein sources out there. It's the same protein availability index of 1 as egg. So it's basically a perfect protein, has a lot of leucine, perfect for muscle building, it's been proven. So if you want to use whey for convenience or because you don't have enough money or time to cook red meat, just go ahead with that. And one last thing I'd like to mention is you should pay attention to how your own body reacts to things. For example, there's a ton of people talking about ketogenic, low carb, high carb. Well, all of that stuff is maybe useful, but it depends on you. So you should try out eating more fat or less fat, eating more carbs or less carbs. Try to experiment with your meal. And the only thing that I'm gonna say about fat is that just eat extra virgin olive oil because that's the best fat out there. I have a bias because I live in France, I'm kind of a Mediterranean guy, but I think it's by far the healthiest fat out there. You can use saturated fat. Saturated fat is not as bad as we used to think, but it's not completely healthy. So you can have, like, I personally use 60-20-20, which means 60% extra virgin olive oil, 20% butter, and 20% duck fat. I think it's a perfect fat composition for health. Again, it's my own experience, it's how I felt. It also comes from my vision of research on fat because it's still complicated. We don't know if seed oils are bad or not, but I just don't use them because they're low quality fat. If you really want to have a healthy fat, use extra virgin olive oil. It's just a no-brainer to me. If you have one fat, which is kind of, yeah, some people say it's healthy, some other people say it's not. you don't really know. Why would you even use it while extra virgin olive oil has been proven to have health effects, have antioxidants, doesn't oxidize really quickly, and it's also perfect for anything basically. You can cook with it. And also don't be afraid of saturated fat. Grass-fed butter is healthy to eat in certain quantities. Just don't put it in your coffee. So yeah, that's it. That's how I bulk. That's how I gain muscle. It may not be the fastest way to gain muscle, but you're gonna keep your productivity, you're gonna keep your brain fog away from your brain, and you're gonna be able to keep on with intellectual work, which is really important in today's world. And thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.